Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Why does this crazy shit always happen to me? So what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about stuff that breaks. It always seems to happen to me. I find unique ways of putting equipment through its paces, I guess, that no one else does. And I always manage to break things. Well, this item we're going to be discussing here today is no different. I got a call, as you know, if you follow a Day in the Life episodes, I got a call from a client a month or two ago, and their whole network was down. So I went out to pay him a visit, and turns out that their switch, their PoE switch, a Unify edge switch, was out. It was switching, it just wasn't providing power over Ethernet. So we quickly, fortunately they had a switch in stock, a 24 port. This is a 48 port PoE switch we're going to be talking about today. But they had a backup 24 port PoE in stock. I went ahead and put that in place. I brought the switch back here to the lab so that we could take a look at it and see what's going on with it. So that's what this video is about today. We're going to crack this thing open, we're going to set it up, we're going to see why it failed, perhaps if we can fix it or not, and then we'll talk about it a little bit after we do that. So I just turned the unit on after being, well, turned off, for lack of a better phrase, for the last couple of weeks. As you know, we're redoing the some cabling for this client, and we put in 2 replacement switches to replace this 48 port. But it sure would be nice if we could get this one up and running again. So the client has asked me to take a look at it and see if I can't fix it, figure out what's wrong with it. Some of you have left some, have given me some options or some things to try in the comment section, so we're going to go over those today. And see if we can't maybe breathe this thing back to life. The switch itself is working, at least it was last time I checked it, and let's make sure that hasn't changed. So if I plug something into port 1, and of course if I turn it on, the device it's connecting, that would be very helpful. There we go. Now let's see if we get a link indicator. Now I'm not getting a link indicator at this time either. Let's go over here to port 3. Yeah. I'm getting no lights. There is a light on port 45. So it looks like this thing has gone from not providing any power to now not even working as a switch. So what I'm going to do is a factory reset. I'm going to actually power reset this. I'll power cycle it one more time. I doubt that's going to do any better, and it takes a minute or so for this switch to come up. So we're getting a blue LED right down there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let it boot up. We're not going to hang around and watch that. I'll check and see if any of the lights come on. If it doesn't, then I'm going to do a factory reset on it. Start from scratch, and then we'll go from there. So I'll bring you back. All right, so the fans have sped up. So I assume that is some other part of the boot process. The blue light has now gone out. More fans have come on the other side. Yeah, but no indicator light on port 3. Also, the light is on solid on port 45. So I'm going to go look up the procedure to reset the switch, and we'll try that next. Alright, so this time what I did is, there's a couple of ways you can factory reset this, and one, there's a little reset button here. It's concealed. You need something like a pin in order to get into that spot. You hold it in until the light turns blue, and then you hold it in until the LED starts flashing, and then you release it, and then it'll reboot in factory reset mode. The other way is to unplug the power, wait for it to power off. Hold the reset switch in and plug the power in and then wait for the blue light to start flashing and then pull the reset. Or the pin out of the reset. So I chose to do it with it powered on, and we can try it. If this still doesn't work, we can try that other method to where I actually unplug the power. Maybe it'll give it a little jolt. I have a feeling that a component in here has changed value, either a capacitor. Normally that's what happens. Capacitors, as they age, they dry out, and the dielectric material inside of them doesn't work properly anymore. They don't have the same capacitance. It changes value. That causes a ripple in the power supply or wherever else, and then it either damages items further downstream, or a safety mode is enabled on these switches, and they just kind of go into this non-powered mode. I don't know. It's a guess. Okay, it's doing its secondary boot now. As you can hear, the fans have sped up. And this is usually the point where it goes out and tries to identify what's on what port. I'm not holding out any hope that I'm not going to have to get into this switch again. Some people suggested it could be a fuse in the switch. I guess it could be. I doubt it, because normally if a fuse is going to go out, the darn thing is just not going to work at all. It won't power up or anything. But that is not the case with this unit. Now, it still has not booted up to where remember earlier, the light on port 45 would light up and nothing else would happen. It's not doing that this time. However, I still don't have any indication on port 3 that anything is plugged in. Well, let's hook up this phone. It is a PoE device. Oh, it would help if we connected it up to the phone and not the laptop. Alright, here we go. Oh my goodness. That's really odd. We're getting power. Holy moly. Really? That's all it needed was a factory reset? Interesting. This is going to be a fun one, boys and girls. That phone is powering on. And I'm also getting an indicator light, which means maybe my laptop network card is not actually turned on. I don't know. We'll come back to that in a minute. And yeah, I have a white light now on the front of the edge switch, which indicates it's working normally, but with no configuration. In other words, it's got its default configuration in there. And it looks like it is providing power to this phone. I'll get another phone, plug it in. In fact, I'm going to do that now. We'll get another phone, plug it in, and then I want to hook it up directly to the laptop before I hook this switch into my system on my bench. So I brought in this other one, this lovely Cisco phone, which is also PoE. And let's just let's plug it in port down here. Yep, it's providing power. As you can see, the device is powering up. So it is providing power now. We do have a white light on it. Again, I'm going to hook it up to my laptop here in a minute, make sure I can ping something out there. I need to find out what the default IP address of this switch is going to be now. But both devices are getting power. What I can do now is I want to go ahead and go down to each different segment of the switch and make sure I am indeed getting power. I need to test every individual port after this, but we'll see. Just right now I'm going to get a quick diagnostic of the switch just to make sure it's doing what it wasn't doing the other day, which is providing power on any device. Okay, see, so it leads me to believe that there was a short somewhere in that network. I'm just thinking back. There had to be a short or something in that network, and perhaps it wasn't enough to damage the switch, or the protection circuit of the switch came into play and prevented any more damage. This is why I had this epiphany the other night when I was dreaming. I was like, why don't we try a factory reset on the switch first? I mean, it's a $600, $700 switch. I don't want to just throw it out in the garbage if we can bring it back to life. Now, it will require extensive testing on this switch before I will ever trust it in a production environment again. But we can do that. We can simulate that environment here. And frankly, that'll make for a good video. So the next thing I'm going to do is hook up the laptop and then see if I can ping the IP of the switch, perhaps even log into the interface. So I've managed to find the absolute longest cable that I have, and I'm going to plug that into port number, let's do numero uno, and let's plug it into my brand new spanking new laptop. Now, it lit up. I'll be ding dong danged. I got a light on number 1. That's a good sign. Okay. So now the next thing I'm going to go do is look up the default IP of this switch and see if I can't put it somewhere on my 5 subnet. And then once I've done that, we'll reboot it again, make sure it keeps coming back up. And then we'll plug it in. We'll go from here up to my switch up here on the bench, my Netgear, and we'll connect it into my 5 subnet, and then we can start, doing some more stuff with it. But so far I got 2 phones. They're both being provided power on pretty much every port on the switch. I haven't checked them all, granted. I'm also now getting a link light for my laptop, so I know that's connected. So let's go look up the information for the next step. So there's a couple of different ways to skin this cat, as they say. So by default, if the switch is plugged into an existing network, it's set to get a DHCP address. But if the switch is sitting alone, like mine is now, it will default to an IP address of 1.2, 192.168.1.2. So I could just assume that it's done that, and then hook it into my network here, and then reboot it, and it would get an IP address off the 5 subnet. But I'm not going to assume anything, not with this switch, okay? So I'm going to do it the hard way. I'm going to go into my laptop. I'm going to log into my laptop. So I'm here, I'm logged into my laptop now, and I'm going to go down to my networking, and I'm just going to manually enter an IP address under my network adapter in the 1 subnet. So I'm just going to use, let's see here, we'll use 192.168.1.1. The rest of this, the subnet mask, is all that matters. I'm going to click on OK and OK, and then I need to go out to a command prompt. So I'll just go out to Windows PowerShell, or you can go to a command line, either one will work. And now we're going to ping the IP address of this switch, which should be 192.168.1.2, and we get a reply. So now we know that this switch is in fact working. Well, as far as we've tested it. We know we got power on most, if not all, the ports. We know we've got connectivity because we're able to ping it from this laptop. We know the PoE is working because we've checked it with these phones. Now, I wonder if there's a web interface to log into on this. Let's find out. Because the next thing I would really want to do is to reboot, and there we go. There's the username and password for the EdgeMax switch. So these are all good signs. So now what I want to do is I want to unplug it again. So let's simulate a power failure. We'll let the switch power down. It's gotten much quieter in here now. And what the object is to see is if it'll do another power up on its own and provide power to all these devices and provide a link light back here and allow us to log in again. If it will, then the next step will be to plug it into our network here. So we got a blue light on the front of the switch. I don't know if you can see it right there, the blue light. I've got no indication. It takes about a couple of minutes to get to this point. We've now lost the connectivity on the browser window. So we're just going to let this thing power cycle. All right, we've gotten to the point where the fans ramp up, and looky there. You're witnessing it live. Looky there. Phone number 1, phone number 2. I've got an indicator light on my laptop right down here. I've got a white light right here on my edge switch, so that's good news indeed, boys and girls. All right, yeah, it seems all I happen to be possessing at the moment are 3-foot cables, and it's more than 3 foot from there to there. So it's going to be one of those kind of days. So I have this blue cable, but I have no confidence in whether it's a good blue cable or not. So this, folks, is probably the craziest thing in at least 2 or 3 minutes that I've done. Alright, see, here's why this cable was put over there. Because it's missing a little certain something. Can you see what that certain something is? It's just the latch to hold the cable in. No biggie, right? I don't need that. Do I? Yeah, I don't need it. I'm going to plug that into port 48. And then this is going into port 6. And boys and girls, I got a light. Woohoo! So now you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to unplug it. And I'm going to power it back up again. Now, why am I going to power it back up again? Well, I want to make sure that this thing is requesting a DHCP address. So I'm going to do that by rebooting it while it's plugged into my 5 subnet, which does contain a DHCP server. And I'm starting to get indicator lights, and I got phones powering up. For all intents and purposes, this broken switch has now been brought back to life with something as simple as a pin. Press on a reset button. So I've already upgraded the switch to 1.83, but what I'm going to do now is take it to the 1.9 version. I've run it here, as you can see, for about 4 days, 19 hours and 5 minutes, and it's been working fine. So I'm going to take it up to the, like I said, the 1.9 version. And I'm going to run the light version because we're not going to have more than 255 VLANs on here. We're not going to have any VLANs to begin with. But so I've downloaded it. So it's kind of a convoluted process here. You have to go, it's not real intuitive. So come here to firmware upgrade, then come here to this little upgrade firmware button. And even though it's grayed out, you click on choose file, and then you can come out and choose your file. So I'm going to upgrade it to the 1.9.3 light version. I'm going to go ahead and open that. And then I'm going to begin the transfer. Okay, so it says the file contents are valid. It's copying the file to flash. So you have an active and you have a backup. So what'll happen is 1.8.3 will get moved to backup, and 1.9 will get moved to active, and then you'll reboot the switch, and then it should load the new upload that we've done, the 1.9. in theory. And then that way, if something fails, you get a corrupted STK file, which is what they use to update these with. You can always revert back to your previous running version. But it only keeps one previous version. In other words, as you can see through the gray here, I have 1.83 running, but I have 1.3.0. whatever in the background. Okay, it's 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and click on close. And we should update the screen behind me. Okay, so where it says next active, I want to switch it to 1.93 light. I want to submit that. I don't know that that's going to restart the switch, but you see we have a tab up there that says restart. Okay, so we're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and restart the switch. Okay, it'll cause all operations to stop. I'm just going to restart without a core dump. I'm going to tell it okay. And then we shall see. All right, so here we are. Now, I'm using the EdgeMax new user interface. You can use the old one if you want to, but I'm just coming here for simplicity. It's a nice little interface. Tells you, you know, what you've got connected to what port. I went ahead and labeled my laptop here. The thing I like about this interface is that it tells you right up here your total throughput and your percentage of active port utilization. So you can see I've got my laptop connected here. I've got some data going across. I've got a phone connected here. It tells you how many watts the phone is consuming. I've got another phone connected here. Yeah, and you know, there's some stuff you can do over here as well. You can come to the little gear icon. You can enable it. You can disable it. You can isolate a port. So if you've got a broadcast storm or something like that going on, you can mitigate it with something like this. So yeah, it's working really, really well. I cannot get the thing to fail anymore. So I'm going to keep rebooting it. We now know we're on the 1.9.3 light update of the firmware. The switch appears to be working fine. So I'll continue to test this switch for the next week or two. And hopefully this will fix it and we can put it back into service. So I could have just done a factory reset at the client, but I wanted to get the switch back here and troubleshoot it and see what was going on. So we got very lucky on this. Now, I've gone back to this client since then. In fact, they hired me to add 10 new drops. So while I was there, I did a little bit of investigative work and come to find out that in one of the offices, about the time this switch went out, people were moving equipment around in offices, okay? So I think what happened is there was a dead short, and maybe this switch went into protection mode, or it, you know, I don't know, maybe it was a cosmic ray, who knows? But I found it really odd that when it got here, you know, when it was at the client site, the switch was working, just not the PoE. Now, I had this client power cycle this switch several times, to no avail. The switch kept coming back up, but not the PoE. But it's odd, I get it here, and you saw me when I plugged it in, I had nothing. I had port 45 on that switch was lit up, and that was it. And I had to do the factory reset, and then it came up and running. Needless to say, this switch will be staying here for a while. In fact, I'm testing it now. And we'll put it through its paces. I don't know that I would trust it to run as a daily production switch. What I want to do is put it back in the rack and start using it again. And then we'll just keep the 24 port in there, and then the customer could easily move the cables down if they needed to in the event this failed again. But man, it's hard to trust a device that has failed on you like this. Now, I have rebooted it. I have factory reset it. I have plugged PoE devices into every port. I have done multiple firmware upgrades on this. I did them incrementally, and I have yet to have it not come up again one time. What I'd like to do is put a little bit heavier PoE load on it, but I've got to get some more devices in here in order to do that. Maybe I'll get some PoE cameras and just plug a bunch of them in and see how it does. Switch is up and running. So what do you think? Would you trust this switch? Yes? No? Would you open it up? How do you feel? You want me to open it up? Check. Maybe there's a swollen capacitor or something on the motherboard. Something simple. What do you think? Let me know. So there you go, folks. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. Please give us a thumbs up down below if you liked the video. Leave your comments down in the comments section. Subscribe. We're real close to 10K. In fact, we may have, I think we're 40 subscribers away from 10,000. That would be great. I didn't get it for my birthday, but oh well, things like that happen. So subscribe, please, if you're not already a subscriber. Click that little notification bell to be notified of new videos when they come out. Donate if you're so inclined. PayPal, Patreon, YouTube join function. You'll get your name in the credits at the end of the video. Come back and see us again, and please don't forget, we'll see you on the other side.